Welcome to the Strathroy-Caradoc All Candidates Mayoral Debate on Rogers TV. We'd like to thank Rogers TV very much for this opportunity, Strathroy United Soccer Club for the venue that we are using. This debate will be broadcast starting September 26th on Rogers TV and will be available 24/7. You can watch it as many times as you want on YouTube as well.
Thanks, and these are the rules that we'll be following during the debate. Opening remarks will be about 4 minutes. That leaves 1 minute per candidate. That will be followed by questions and answers from the two moderators. Each candidate that is asked a question will have 1 minute to answer. Every other candidate will have an opportunity to give a 30-second rebuttal, and then that original candidate that was asked the question will also be given 30 seconds if they choose to respond again. Moderators, of course, have the option of continuing the conversation as long as it needs to go. Closing remarks are 8 minutes. That's 2 minutes per candidate. And closing remarks should begin around 10:02. Now let's get to our candidates. Camera left to right, we have candidate Dan Berdan. Sitting beside him is Brad Bock. And beside him is Colin Grantham. And finally, Joanne Vanderheyden. And now the opening remarks.
Hi, I'm Dan Berdan. I've been a proud member of the Strathroy Mount Bridges community for over 50 years. I've raised my family here, and they've also lived here. So much for who I am.
Hi, I would like to say thank you to Rogers for letting me attend this debate. I very much believe we are having this debate to create accountabilities and consensus from the present members on council and for the newly elected members to council on October the 24th. Accountability and consensus is important to me, and I'm here to create change. I am asking you, the voters, to grant me to be your next mayor of Strathroy-Caradoc on October the 24th. My name is Brad Bock. Thank you.
I am Colin Grantham. I grew up on a farm outside of Melbourne. My daughter and my 5 grandsons are the 5th generation to live in that farmhouse. I now live in Strathroy. I would like my grandsons to be proud to live in Strathroy-Caradoc. I had a very successful business career, first in newspaper management, lastly ending up as a national sales manager. Part of that success was one constant thing: leadership. Leadership matters. The kind of leadership that pushed me to greater goals, to have vision and strive for better things. Leadership matters. That is why I am running for mayor of Strathroy-Caradoc.
Municipalities are complex, multifaceted organizations. The past 4 years has required leadership through crisis with a focus on emergency preparedness to ensure staff and citizens were safe as we continued to deliver the services we all rely on and ensured our community moved forward. Government is not static. Issues and outside influences continue. Complex issues of infrastructure, water, wastewater, housing, homelessness, finding new sustainable non-property tax revenue, budgets, emergency services, broadband, recreation, and the facilities that requires, protecting and fighting for our agricultural community, economic development, communications, climate change, growth, land use planning. Some will cross boundaries and require partnerships. Our strategic and official plans will translate vision and strategy into tangible results and outcomes. There is nothing simple about being an elected official, especially the mayor. Your mayor requires experience, knowledge, and consistency. My name is Joanne Vanderheyden. I'm a life member of this community, and I am that person to be your mayor.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. And we'll go right into the questions now for the candidates, and we'll start at the left with Dan. The homeless situation is a very serious topic right now in Strathroy-Caradoc. Is there a role for the municipality to deal with homelessness, and as part of that role, acquiring a 24/7 emergency shelter for anyone who needs it?
There is a problem. It's not like London or bigger cities, but as a community, we've always got together and helped people. I don't see a problem with helping people. I'm not sure exactly what Joanne's does, but I've seen people complain. I know that all our communities are fighting right now. I don't know exactly why they're fighting. I haven't had a chance to, well, you can't really get into it till you're elected, but you can surmise what the problems are. But absolutely, we should help the homeless.
Okay. Brad?
Yes, I agree. We should help the homeless. I do know we have issues of homeless people here in Strathroy. And one example that I imagine the community here in Strathroy knows that there's homeless people staying in at the Royal Bank at night. And it scares people when they do their banking. But we need to do something to fix that issue.
I just want to push back on something that Dan said. The magnitude or the size of the problem shouldn't matter. It's a problem. The size of it should not matter. I'm always driven by one thing on issues like this, and I think to myself, how would I feel if that was one of my grandsons that needed help? So to answer the question, absolutely the municipality has a key role to help homelessness.
Homelessness is a very complicated human issue. Housing access is a basic need, and a housing strategy for all is necessary, but it's not working. We need wraparound services, and that's where a facility would come in absolutely perfectly for our community, where somebody could get all the services that they require, and we would then have compassion, care, and empathy, and services to deal with mental health, addictions, and homelessness, and it would be recognized as a health issue, not just stigmatize people who are living on the street, because we all deserve a place to be.
And we're all finished with that topic? You didn't want to say anything more?
Actually, you know, I believe homeless needs the workings with the bureaucracy to caseworkers. And I can remember some time ago, Jim Flaherty, he indicated when he ran for the leadership of the Conservative Party that homeless people should be put in jail and until they have a caseworker to have a shelter and a place to live. Now, is that all that bad to try to make caseworkers accountable for their actions to make sure that homeless do have a place to live? And does Strathroy have residents for them to live?
Perfect, thank you. And Joanne, you had another thing to say?
Thank you. I just wanted to add something. This has got to be a partnership, nationally, provincially, locally, at the county level. We cannot do this alone, and there are things happening at every one of those levels. They all need to dovetail together for us to get a handle on this and to move it forward, because we all deserve a safe, comfortable place to live.
I'm just going to follow up on one thing. I believe this is a case where your municipality can take leadership. I agree with the mayor that the other levels of government have a role. But this is a local issue. So for lack of a better word, to kick the can down the road, we as a municipality should take a leadership role. Remember, these may be your neighbors that need help.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next topic now.
As we know, homelessness extremely important. Another very important issue in all of our municipalities is affordable housing. Do you think the current council has had enough of a focus on getting affordable housing built? How would you address the great need for low-income housing, but also housing rentals in general? We're starting with Brad this time.
Okay, the question mark here would be, does Strathroy have affordable housing? Now, I do know the Ontario government is introducing a new piece of legislation, and I believe it's 109 or something, where on a quick, fast-track basis, to build housing or affordable housing for people. And within 30 days, I believe, if you do not accept it, the developer gets a certain amount return, and then 60 days receives more in return, and in 90 days probably receives the full amount in return. So that way, the municipality must work on a fast-track basis to have affordable housing built. So that can be a very positive piece of legislation for the future of Strathroy to have affordable housing for homeless people.
Okay, Colin?
Affordable housing is a bit of a misnomer. The markets will take care of affordable housing. I look at it differently. We should be looking at attainable housing. We should be looking at helping those that are the most vulnerable, and I've said so publicly. We should take care of those at the lower end, and our seniors who are the most vulnerable. I believe that is another part where our municipality can help out, is an attainable housing. Let's help the most vulnerable.
Thank you. This ties back into what I said earlier, that it has to be a combination of orders of government. Locally, we don't have the money to put up apartment buildings. We have to rely on developers, and we work with those developers to put in market plus geared to rent units. And that's what works. Right now, we're working with the Caradoc Housing Corporation, and we're putting in a $10 million project in Mount Bridges, which will have market value and geared to rent income units in there. And I think that is the way to go, because it's at least putting shovels in the ground, and we're not just waiting for other levels of government to give us the money. We're working through our own corporations to get this accomplished. And I think that's very positive.
And Dan?
Yeah. Every time they talk like this, it always goes back to the taxpayers that have to fund this stuff. They can't keep raising taxes to support things. They have to go over this stuff and really dive into this to make it work for both parties. They just can't keep raising taxes and expect it to go shovels in the ground, yes, but it has to be done correctly.
Okay, now this is kind of related in the same vein here as affordable housing. The Caradoc Housing Corporation has a board consisting of the mayor and senior municipal staff. The municipality's Community and Cultural Services Department works with the corporation to manage Parkview Manor, a multi-unit social housing complex in Mount Bridges. What is the role of the corporation, and given the public nature of it, does it need more transparency on its aspirations and how housing decisions are made? First, this goes to Colin.
I would actually like to say thank you for the question, because I was going to lead into that after the mayor talked about Caradoc housing. In my postings and writings on attainable housing, I called on Caradoc housing as a vehicle for good, something that we could use to bring affordable or attainable housing into this community. And with all due respect to the mayor, there is a feeling in the community that Caradoc housing, for lack of a better word, has been hijacked. It has been taken over and created into a private entity that has no transparency. There's no accountability. There is nothing that we know as the public as to what is transpiring in Caradoc housing. Again, Caradoc housing could have been a vehicle for good in this community. Instead, what we have is for-profit apartment buildings that really aren't doing any good for this community.
I absolutely disagree. Caradoc Housing Corporation has been in place for years and years, and we received funding from the province in order to facilitate the building in Mount Bridges. And when that funding quit in 2018, we made it into a corporation because we didn't need citizens on that board anymore because we weren't getting any funding from the government. We now have a building being built through the Caradoc Housing Corporation where there is a lineup of people wanting to get in from our community that are looking for a safe, affordable place to be, and that's what's happening. There is nothing toward about that.
Dan, would you like to respond?
Absolutely, there has to be transparency and a lot more of it, less red tape. This is a necessity for the taxpayers to help join in and be part of the community and be addressed with them, not just told at them.
Again, I'm going to speak about on the fast track basis with that piece of legislation. If it does become law here in Ontario, it can be actually very beneficial for the municipality because they have a limited amount of time to rezone or not rezone for the developer. And what they can do is integrate business into their menu, if you want to say, and purchase land that can be developed for affordable housing and then sell it to the developer. It can be business oriented too for the municipality.
All right, and you wanted one more kick at the can there, Colin?
I did. Half of the units at that complex are market rate units. That does not address the question of affordable housing. The other half are at 80% market rate. Do the math on whatever the market rate may be, and it still does not address the issue of affordable housing.
Okay, quickly, Joanne, if you.
It's attainable housing. You even said that earlier yourself. And so we're trying to make it as affordable as possible. We are putting shovels in the ground to get these places ready so people can move in. And I don't understand why everybody's so upset about that, because everybody wants it, knows we have to have it. We're doing it, and we're still getting beat up. Don't get it.
All right, on to the next question, and we will start with you, Joanne, this time. Where do you think the perception of some that there is less transparency on how decisions made by council come from, and how would you try to change that perception?
I think the perception always comes about every 4 years when there's an election. That's basically what it is, and this year is no different. We are very transparent. Everything we do is live on camera, live streamed. Our agendas are posted the Thursday before the meeting, so people have all kinds of time to call us with questions. All our debates, if the live stream stops, we stop the meeting. So I really do not understand why people think there's no transparency, because there's absolute transparency, accountability, and we are present for every call and every email that people are sending. So it's, again, I think it's an every 4-year problem.
Dan?
Have you ever tried to get through to Mount Bridges or Strathroy-Caradoc? It's a fun time. I know. I've been waiting for 3 years for a building permit. It's not transparent.
Transparency is actually, I believe it's more hidden than, because within the government and the town administration, or any government and administration, there is the executive level of the administration. And the people do not see what's going on that particular level. And from that, it lacks transparencies. Now, you could open the door and bring more transparencies in to see what actually is taking place at both levels, the government and the executive level.
We should strive to do more than the minimum when it comes to transparency. We should strive to go over and above when it comes to transparency. And I'll give you an example. Closed door meetings or in-camera sessions are covered under the Ontario Ombudsman on open meeting guidelines. One of the things that you can do is have more descriptors into what the closed door meeting is about. We should stop doing the minimum and go over and above in order to appear more transparent. And I actually think the citizens of this municipality would disagree that this is only an issue in an election year.
Hey, Joanne?
Just want to rebuttal a couple things. One, we have reports that come from our executive to all of our meetings on all the issues. That's how that information flows down. Illegal ramifications of closed meetings are personal issues or legal issues. They cannot be discussed out in the open, and we make sure that we follow that legislation, because I don't want to have someone have leaked information that's going to hurt a person. So transparency is about agendas, live streaming, reporters are there all the time. We are open for business, and we do what we need to do in order to make sure that everybody understands where the issues are going.
All right, we're going back to around the council table with the next question. It's the role of staff versus the role of council. This question goes to Dan first. What is the role of the senior staff in helping council make decisions, and is council independent enough when making those decisions?
I'm not really sure, to be absolutely honest with you, and that's what I want to be, how that really works in reality. So I would like to say yes, but I'm not sure.
Okay, Brad, do you have anything to say on that?
I would say, again, speaking, as I indicated earlier, regarding the executive level of government, and there is, if you want to say secrecy or backroom politics taking place where maybe the council members at the table are not aware of where they might want to go. So as a result, there is a lack of transparency, sir.
And Colin, would you like to?
Yeah, no, I want to put a different spin on this, and I want to talk about the recommendations that go in front of council. I have been watching council now for 2 years. I have yet to see council reject or send back a staff report. That does happen in other municipalities. If you watch London Council, they do in fact send reports back. What I would like to see and take off is a recommendation from staff. We need to open up debate within council and have council and the mayor and deputy mayor make the decision. But again, we need to change the way that reports go in front of council.
All right, Joanne, would you like to rebut that?
I'll just do my opening first and then I'll rebut after. Council and administration serve as a team, each with distinct roles, yet working together in the interests of the public. Council, the authority of council is and its members and associated committees and the administration is conveyed by legislation. Council is responsible for governance, setting bylaws, policies, and procedures. Administration is to advise on these policies and to carry them out through operations administration. That's exactly how council and administration works. And I'll save my rebuttal for when they're done.
All right, Brad, go ahead.
I was going to say, as you're indicating for the independence, let's say as the executive level, it's not all for the bad. It actually is not. It can be for the good too of the community, of the municipality, because business happens. So there probably has to be some kind of equilibrium there where both sides come involved.
And Colin, I'm guessing you wanted to say something. Joanne, I guess you get first opportunity.
I just want to say that a lot of the things I'm hearing are just assumptions. There are no backroom meetings. There are no private meetings and secret meetings. Council has the opportunity to speak to each other and to staff. And the recommendations that come through council reports show how awesome our staff are. The reports are very solid, lots of background information, and council also does their own research. So the fact that we can come together with respectful debate and make good decisions, I think bodes well for Strathroy-Caradoc.
And Colin, I believe you were first up.
No, I was going to say that the staff is probably very awesome, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But what I'm saying, there is the executive level of governments that work independently, and then they go to council and inform them where they would like to see council go or what path that they like to pursue.
Colin, please.
Yeah, and I agree. This is not a knock on staff. We need strong staff. That is important to the maintaining the running of an efficient municipal government. This is about our council and about their autonomy and about their independence to make the decisions. And I'm going to suggest that sometimes where there's an appearance of something, there's some reality in it. Citizens did not come to this assumption on their own.
All right, we'll go on to our next topic.
Okay, let's talk about an arena. Lighten the mood a little bit. All right, so we will start this time with Brad. Do you know where the progress on building an arena in Mount Bridges is? And what would you do to help move the project along while keeping the community engaged?
Well, I do see signs around here in Strathroy and in Mount Bridges that they would like to build an arena in Mount Bridges there. They do have an arena presently right now, and I'm going to say the population of Mount Bridges meets a certain criteria that could it actually handle 2 arenas or another arena, or are you planning to close the present arena? And would it be good for the taxpayers? Would they pay more money to obtain that arena? Or should they pursue a form of charity and see if they can raise money to have a new arena built? instead of putting that on the backs of taxpayers.
Colin?
I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I think we're almost all going to agree that Mount Bridges needs a new arena. They deserve it, and for purely selfish reasons, my 4-year-old grandson starts hockey on Saturday, and I want to go to Mount Bridges to watch him play hockey. But to answer your question, yes, I know where we're at with the progress in Mount Bridges. I know the council has said that they will build an arena. Let's get that done. I do have one thing that does bother me, and that is fundraising committee. I do not understand why it appears to be incumbent upon the citizens to raise funds towards an arena.
So we have 2 committees set up right now for the purpose of building design and fundraising. Vision and mission has been put forward. Everybody's excited. There's knowledgeable citizens, staff, and council members who are engaged in the process. Many visits were made to other arenas to vision what would work for our community, and we have an architect putting together the concepts. All of Mount Bridges promised that they would fundraise, and that's why there's fundraising done by citizens, but some will come from hopefully grants, and some will come from the community and the taxpayers in this entire community.
Okay, Dan.
So where is it exactly being built?
I absolutely know, and those meetings are all live streamed, so everybody ought to know.
No, we all don't know. 1 minute's in Mount Bridges Ford front yard, another minute's overall.
Again, rumors.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing else to say? Anybody?
I can remember when I was a young guy, and I grew up in Kitchener-Waterloo, and actually in Elmira and St. Jacobs. And we would use both. I played for Woolwich Hockey, Minor Hockey Association. I was a goaltender, and we would go back and forth. We would use the arena in St. Jacobs, and we would use the arena in Elmira. Now here, if there's an issue with the Mount Bridges arena, and if it's they could use maybe the arena, the Gemini complex here in Strathroy until they can maybe fix the solution to what's taking place, why that arena cannot be in working condition.
Well, thank you very much. And speaking of investment in other communities, the next topic is about investing in Strathroy proper versus all the other communities within Strathroy-Caradoc. This question, of course, goes to Colin. What would you do about many in smaller or rural communities like Melbourne, Campbellvale, Delaware West, and Mount Bridges feeling left out when compared to the larger community of Strathroy?
First, we need to acknowledge that is a real feeling. That feeling is out there in the community. They feel it. I grew up in Melbourne. I'm there. I know it's real. I've heard it from people in Mount Bridges that there is that perception that there is a divide in investment between the smaller communities. How do we fix it? I think, first of all, we need to recognize that we do, in fact, have separate and diverse communities. We need to look at them separately when making decisions, look at their heritage and their history. The arena in Mount Bridges was a good example of that. The municipality tried to act like there's one large municipality and forgot the history and heritage of Mount Bridges. So we need to treat each one as separate entities, respect their history, respect their heritage, treat them as diverse community, and stop looking at the size of them as a vehicle or a measure for investment.
I am Mount Bridges born and raised and still have Mount Bridges as my address. We are one community in Strathroy-Caradoc. The investments that we make, I agree that people feel that, but I have asked so many people, so what does it look like? What is it? And nobody can actually tell me. Investments are made using asset management as a guide, so we do all our roads. We have snow removal for everyone. We clean our roads. We have fire. We have ambulances. Sidewalks are installed, repaired. All of these happen across the community. Parks are spread throughout our community. Budgets only allow for one community. Tar and chip in Caradoc was almost $1 million this year. Like we spend money every year in our entire community. And I don't understand what the actual issues are because people have never been able to pinpoint where the money's not being
Okay,
spent.
and Dan, did you have something to say about the topic?
Just curious, you talked about tar and chip. How many times has your road been tar and chipped over? There's people like Whiteman out there side of Mount Bridges near Cooks that have been promised for years that they're one time chipped. You just had yours done like a week ago in front of your house from Melbourne Town Line right up the 81 highway again.
It
How
had
many
nothing
times?
to do with where I live.
You
It's
said tar
done
and
with
chip.
asset management.
Sure.
And Brad?
Well, I really don't have an answer for that.
And I feel bad for directing my questions at the mayor, but I think it's appropriate that I do so. We just talked about the possibility of the closure of the arena in Mount Bridges. When that was first announced, that was looking at treating this as one large municipality and take an asset out of a community that had history and heritage.
To rebut that, we did a report on the arena. The arena is coming down before we know it. So we had to make sure we had a plan in place. We did public consultation, and a report came forward by a third party with options. One of the options was to not replace the arena and do multi-use facilities in that area. That's what a lot of the residents were asking for. Now, obviously, that's not what transpired. So we listened to the citizens and we're moving forward with an ice pad.
That report should have been dead on arrival.
Okay, so fire hall allocation is the topic now. Do you agree with amalgamating fire stations 2 and 3, which would mean a closure to station 3 in Melbourne, which could potentially hamper response times for calls? And Joanne, we're starting with you.
Perfect. I encourage everyone to go to our website and look at the master plan. All the numbers are there. The response coverage, the response times, the calls per station, the population projections. What can we do with our 3 stations that are old? Our trucks barely fit in the stations. We are looking at what we can do to make things better for our future of our fire stations. So the report really shows that 2 stations that are in the right spots will serve our entire community and make response times even faster. Now, you don't have to believe me. The numbers are all there, and I don't have enough time to tell you what they all are, but we're looking at what we can do to do that better and make sure that all of our community has a good response time. You really got to remember, we have volunteer firefighters. They all come from all over the community. So where are they all situated? That also comes into play. It is not just a matter of we're going to take down stations and not replace them. We are going to replace them in better spots in order to facilitate excellent response times, excellent coverage, and make sure that our citizens are safe.
Dan?
This is something I can actually speak to because I have a personal experience with my house burning down. I lived on Fern Drive, just outside of Mount Bridges. They'd have broken down fire trucks and all kinds of crap. My house burnt down. $1 million house. Now, whether we're going to have full-time fire people on now, or it's still always going to be.
No, we'll come back to you though, Joanne. Okay, and Brad?
Well, I do some time ago remember reading in the H-Dispatch that they want the fire station in Strathroy, they want a new fire station and they want to build new. And with today's new technologies that's taking place and walking into the future, maybe it's a good idea. But at the same time, we should receive financial help, and whether it's from the province or the federal government, because it should not be put on the backs of the property taxpayers too. So I believe there should be some help from other sources.
Okay, and Colin?
I did read the fire plan. From stem to stern, I read that fire plan, and it lacks in credibility. And I want to tell you why. There was 2 things in there. And you got to look for the little things. That report talked about the major thoroughfares in Strathroy-Caradoc, 81 and 402. Last time I looked, Longwoods Road was a major thoroughfare. You cannot tell me that you can talk about a report and miss a major thoroughfare. Secondly, and I won't get time to talk about it, I compared that report to another one that they did, and there was a major discrepancy
All right,
when
that's
it came to,
Colin.
yep.
Okay, to rebuttal the three things. No, we no longer have broken down equipment. We very much take care of our equipment and have bought new equipment all the way along. I remember when Strathroy-Caradoc amalgamated, we bought our first brand new truck for Mount Bridges. So we have continued to do that, and we continue to take care of the equipment. We have a volunteer force that are absolutely excellent, but down the road, we're going to have to start looking at a composite force. And that's why we have to start looking for the vision, as you said, for the future. And that's what we're going to be doing. And again, please read the report.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll move on to our next topic, probably. Yes.
Yeah, our next topic is a servicing agreement topic. Now, currently negotiations between Strathroy-Caradoc and Adelaide Metcalfe regarding the Centre Road business corridor have gone to the courts. All those businesses rely on water and waste services provided by Strathroy-Caradoc. Considering all the proposed and improved development in that area of Strathroy, which needs water and sewer, of course, do you want to make a deal with Adelaide Metcalfe to continue this agreement? This question first goes to Dan, I believe.
I don't know about deals, but we have to step back and slow the roll a little bit and actually go over some of these numbers, because sometimes they're just not making sense, what's going on. The sewers and water here in Mount Bridges, where people are paying $17,000 for it to run across their properties, $17,000 to hookups, I've been hearing. I don't know, I haven't checked YouTube, apparently, but if it is so, why isn't the builders, our infrastructure, taxpayers are already paying for this stuff on their taxes. So why are the builders getting extra money, like double dipping and receiving this stuff and charging more? The prices of housing has went up 3 times in the last, since before COVID, or just as COVID started, the last 3 years, basically. Why is that?
Brad?
Well, I think for a service agreement, I think sure, if, for example, we have the town treasurer, and for him to investigate that and to give what feedback he receives, and if it's black and white, it's legal, and if it's for the benefit of Strathroy-Caradoc, why not?
Colin?
There is part of me that wants to be a good neighbor, to extend a hand to Adelaide Metcalfe. But I'm also a business person, and I know it's incumbent upon not just the mayor, but all the council to take care of the best interest of Strathroy-Caradoc. So if that means hard negotiations or soft negotiations, it's in our best interest to take care of Strathroy-Caradoc. But we do have a unique situation. We have a new mayor in Adelaide Metcalfe. Let's get a new mayor in Strathroy-Caradoc who can talk.
And Joanne?
Thank you. The agreement has been in place for a long time, the servicing agreement. So we've been good neighbors all along. What occurred was Adelaide Metcalfe 4 years ago, the agreement expired because they would not re-sign it. For whatever reasons, they were having issues with their finance people, with their CAO. They have now regrouped, and they still refuse to sign it. Strathroy-Caradoc residents should not be paying for Adelaide Metcalfe to get services. We have supplied the services. There is an agreement in place that needs to stay in place, and that's why we went to court.
Still with that topic, should we be entertaining amalgamation with Adelaide Metcalfe or expropriating land around Strathroy to handle growth and possibly solve the servicing agreement impasse? Brad, we're asking you that first.
Well, to amalgamate with Metcalfe, Adelaide and Metcalfe, and be a part of Strathroy-Caradoc, well, I would not support that, because the question mark would be if you would, like, representation by population, where will the seats be and who will hold the controlling seats, right? And if Strathroy would lose that, and let's say Metcalfe and Adelaide or even Mount Bridges would take control with how they set up the seats, and Strathroy is a minority, no, I would not support that.
Colin?
It's certainly something that we need to explore. And I do know that apart from the water and the sewage issue, it's starting to become an issue. When you look at the proposed development off of Darcy Drive, I know that if we could have a road that would go through right to 81 Highway, it would alleviate a lot of the traffic questions that are there. So to answer the question directly, let's talk about it, let's see what happens, and if it's necessary, let's have a conversation.
We have no issue talking to Adelaide Metcalf. As a matter of fact, we work with them quite well on some things, Panel Road and different things that we work together with. Some of the land has been given to us in dribs and drabs, as you can see across the way with Strathmere Lodge and et cetera. And we've accepted that because it was in the best interest of all of our communities. So if it's in the best interest of Strathroy-Caradoc and Adelaide Metcalf, I have no problem with that. I want to rebut the Queen Street piece. The developers paid for Queen Street. The connections to the sewers are the responsibility of the landowner that it benefits, and that is the homeowner.
We're going to move on to taxes. How important are taxes in the municipality in terms of keeping them low? Everybody loves low taxes. Where can we save on spending, and what is your plan moving forward? We'll start with Colin, please.
This is something that I wrote about extensively. It's in my business wheelhouse, is budgeting. It's not my term, but there's a term called tax creep that is setting in. You will hear the mayor say that we have had modest tax increases in the last 4 years. Those modest tax increases add up to almost 10% in 4 years. There's a reality about property taxes. People have short memories and they forget what they were paying 2 years ago, let alone 3 years ago. And I do have a plan when it comes to taxes and corralling tax increases. Zero-based budgeting is something that is gaining traction in different municipalities. Adelaide Metcalf did it. Sudbury is having conversations about zero-based budgeting. What that does on the operating budget is ensure every dollar is necessary, every dollar is accounted for, and we're getting the tax that we deserve. Not that we deserve, but it was necessary.
All right, thank you, Joanne.
Taxes are always a very interesting conversation because everybody wants everything, but nobody wants to pay everything. So we have to figure out how to pay for what everybody wants. So it's a matter of wants and needs and how to develop that. We have one taxpayer. We also have a lot of things that I call downloading by stealth, things that the province and the feds send down to us that 1 minute, like the housing piece. You should be building housing. The municipality doesn't build housing. Okay, we're going to do it because our citizens need it. Suddenly we're responsible. A lot of that has happened over the years. And I believe we absolutely have been very cautious with our tax rates. And we've also paid down our debt so it's only $2 million left on $11 million from a number of years ago. So I think we've done really well.
Okay, thank you. And Dan?
Like I mentioned before, we have to step back and re-examine these things. And taxes are very important to a lot of people. In some cases, people are putting off eating to pay taxes. And this is not right. We deserve a good life and we can do it, but we have to step back and re-examine everything that's been going on.
And Brad?
I'd say we all have to pay our bills and taxes are a necessity. But the question here I would have is if the revenue of Strathroy-Caradoc is $30 to $40 million per year, if you would times that by 4, that would be $120 to $160 million over 4 years. Now, is there a lack of accountabilities of how that money is being spent? Does there need to be more accountabilities and more consensus even as to how the money is being spent?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just quick. We have a couple more
Okay.
topics.
The last 2 years, we have had surpluses in the operating budget. We have not spent all of the tax increases in the past 2 years. That is a fact. We need to look at the operating budget and ensure that every dollar is necessary.
So just a quick rebuttal. Yes, we all pay taxes. We all don't want to pay taxes, but we do. Surplus, the holdovers, quite often it's because they're in operations and they're specified for projects that haven't occurred yet. So not all surplus is just sitting there waiting to go in a surplus account. It's actually earmarked for something that's coming down the road that hasn't been accomplished yet. Accountability, we give quarterly updates at council. So again, the numbers are there, the projects are there, the updates are there, and people can see that.
Okay. This topic, we may only have time for people to weigh in once on it, but we have to ask this. I promised people I would ask this question. Should we have an indoor pool? And what is council's role in getting one if we should? The issue itself always arises at times like these. Does the town need to finally focus on this as a priority? And we start with Joanne.
We have looked at that backwards, forwards, upside down, and sideways, and we understand that you need at least 30,000 people in your community in order to operate and build an indoor pool. We do not have that. If we did that, we could not build and do any other infrastructure. So I'm sorry, not yet, but I hope we get to talk about business because we have done an amazing job putting businesses together in Strathroy-Caradoc.
Dan?
If it can be put into the budget properly and looked at, I think an indoor pool would be great for the children. We have 9 months of cold weather around here. Hawaii seems to do it just fine. In London, there's indoor pools in London. It's a bigger community, obviously, but they should run the numbers. They should look at that. I would actually like that. It could be good for the kids.
Brad?
I would say presently, as what Joanne says, if the population is not there, but at the same time, we could be creative and create an indoor pool by integrating it with the hospital and use a pool in medical use and where people get rehabilitated by the use of the pool. And at the same time, you could have a recreation, a gym, et cetera, and integrate it with the hospital and doctor's offices, et cetera, et cetera.
And now Colin.
I did read the last rec report, and it did say we need 30,000 people within 9 years before we could look at it. But if you think the term of this next council is 4 years, that's only 4.5 years out before we need to start looking at it. In fact, I do have a question for the mayor, because you say we've looked at it forwards, backwards, and sideways. When was the last costing done on a pool? Because that was one of the questions when I talk to people, they ask, what does it cost? I can't just say too much money. In fact, I do have a question for you, Joanne. When was the last time you did a
Okay, that was a direct question, so we will let Joanne answer that.
I have not looked directly myself because that's something that goes through our rec department. Yeah, you're looking at me like I have all the answers. I have a lot of answers, and I know that we cannot go into debt over something that we all want. I would love a pool. I would love an indoor pool. I think it'd be great. But at this particular point, we do not have that opportunity. We spent $4 million on the outdoor pool, and that was given to us by the province.
Okay, we're going to move to our closing statements now. Each of you get 2 minutes, and we'll start with Joanne.
The past 4 years have been unpredictable and very challenging, yet we have continued to move the business of Strathroy-Caradoc forward, managed unprecedented residential growth, new factories are being built, major renovations are occurring at various industries, new businesses are opening, and infrastructure programs continue. Community well-being is top of mind. Work continues on improvements to our parks with added amenities, trail improvements, playground upgrades, and plans for a new arena in Mount Bridges. This is not the time to pause the progress we have made. Now is the time to rely on experience and consistency in your mayor. I absolutely understand the municipal landscape, the issues that come before us, and can seize the opportunities that come our way. My capacity to develop and foster positive, supportive, strong partnerships with staff and elected officials in municipal governments, associated agencies and organizations, and our provincial and federal partners has been thoroughly demonstrated. My record shows I am a consensus builder and an extremely strong municipal leader. With vision, we have built a solid financial foundation, utilizing long-term borrowing wisely and lobbying for alternate revenue streams and grants. My platform includes building an inclusive community where growth in housing is managed to accommodate a range of needs with sustainable, strong infrastructure, ensuring economic development opportunities are in place, building on our recreation and social programs, delivering our traditional services while visioning for the future to ensure we have safe and flourishing communities, offering effective and efficient services to our residents. The next 4 years are extremely important as we move forward as a community. In my role as your mayor, I offer you my commitment to lead with integrity, continuing to draw on my municipal experience, knowledge, network, and strong leadership skills. I promise to continue to work flat out to ensure our community's needs are met and exceeded. Please vote Joanne Vanderheyden for mayor.
And up next is Colin.
We just spent an hour debating issues. Issues that are important, issues that are necessary. But they will be dealt with, and there will be new issues. It saddens me that we do not have one discussion about vision of the community. I didn't hear any discussion about aspirational goals or vision for the future. What we discussed tonight are near-term issues. There's been no discussion or debate about the future of Strathroy-Caradoc and what it looks like. My opening statement, I talked about my success in business and how I was driven by aspirational goals. I believe in setting stretch goals, goals that you have to push for, goals that make you a better community. In my opening statement, I said, I want to make this a community that my grandsons will love to live in and be proud to live in. We just spent a minute talking about the pool. A pool is a stretch goal. It's an aspirational target. It's not something that I am espousing or pushing for now. It's just an example of a stretch goal that the community has asked for that we should look at. We have plans. That is a fact. We have a master plan. We have a fire plan. We have an asset management plan. They are all good plans, and they are necessary. But I have one word for those. Those are governance plans. Some of them are mandated by the government. They are pushed, you must have them. We should not accept should or must have. We should create a vision for this community that makes us a better community. One thing we did not talk about was attracting business to this community. If you want to attract business to this community, you need to create a community that makes others want to come here. As your mayor, I will push. I will create aspirational targets and stretch goals.
Thank you very much, Colin. And next up is Brad.
Again, my name is Brad Bock, and I have lived in Strathroy from 1987 to the present, 35 years. During those 35 years, I have graduated from Western University with a Bachelor of Arts in Geography and Political Science. I have also graduated from Fanshawe College with a certificate in Human Resource Management. Following my graduation of HR Management, I have over 3 years of volunteer work with the London chapter of Human Resource Professional Management. I have also done secretary volunteer work here in Strathroy when Search was a part of Strathroy. We're helping people with disabilities. I have also found my first year studies of business administration in accounting, data processing, and marketing from Windsor St. Clair College has given me an excellent business administration learning curve in pursuing accountabilities and consensus. As a result, I am an excellent fit to be your next leader, your next mayor for Strathroy-Caradoc. Vote Brad Bock for change, October 17th to October 24th. Thank you very much, and God bless.
All right, thank you very much, and we'll wrap up with Dan.
Thank you. I have a little thing prepared here. The time to play politics is done. What we need now is governance and a good fiscal policies that will serve the community well, and not to play and pay and play. I'm dedicated to doing just that. I will give us the pause we need to reevaluate what we have done and ensure we are all heading towards a better future for our community. And I'm Dan Berdan, and I will make a good mayor. Thank you.
Okay, well, we thank all of you very much for joining us this evening. whatever time this is actually airing. Dan Berdan, Brad Bock, Colin Grantham, and Joanne Vanderheyden are your candidates for mayor. So be sure that you make an informed decision, learn about your candidates. It's very important to do that. We always say vote, but definitely make an informed decision before you vote. We thank very much Rogers Television for this broadcast tonight, the Strathroy United Soccer Club for the venue that we are using, and this debate will start broadcasting September 26th, and also will be on YouTube, so you can watch it as many times as you like. We thank you very much, and happy voting.